Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio College Basketball Closing Time Show for Tuesday, February 16th. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack back, as always, ready to break down the Tuesday college basketball card. Looking forward to a pretty interesting card and I'm excited more than normal, to be honest with you, about this card today, because I think that was one of the worst, weakest cards in college basketball this season last night. I mean, it was very slim pickings. Other than Virginia, Florida State, there really wasn't any kind of game that you could say, wow, it's a really great game. But we got a few of those tonight on the card. So looking forward to breaking them down. Let's get to it. We'll start, as always, top of the rotation. We've got a game tipping off in a little less than an hour from now in the Big 12, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. The Cowboys, 11-point home favorites in Stillwater, 146.5 the total in this game. Obviously, you would think Oklahoma State wins the game. The question is, do they win this game by enough of a margin here as 11-point home favorites against an Iowa State team that, you know, they've been pretty feisty. They didn't have a good couple of games against Kansas in their last two. They get drilled at Fog Allen, and they hang in there against Kansas actually for well into the second half, and then ice cold shooting down the stretch from the Cyclones does them in, and they end up losing 64-60 to the Jayhawks. But still, you're talking about an Iowa State team that they've covered 3 of their last 5. They've shown the ability at times to go on the road in the Big 12 and cover in this road dog role like they did. You know, they covered as double-digit dogs against West Virginia, on the road at Oklahoma, on the road at TCU. So it's a lot of points to be laying here for Oklahoma State, and they're coming off a game where they only won by 7 against Kansas State, laying 12.5. So comparable teams, Kansas State with Iowa State. I lean to taking the points here with the Cyclones. Obviously, they are a team I think that's a little bit undervalued coming up. And I worry about the spot here too for Oklahoma State because they've got this game, and I worry they look past it a little bit. And it's human, you know, just human emotion, human nature to look past maybe this game for Oklahoma State, because they have a murderer's row to finish the Big 12 regular season. After today, they've got Baylor on the road, home against Texas Tech, and then a home and away with Oklahoma to finish up the Big 12 season. So there you go. There's the 3 best teams in the Big 12 right there. 3 of, anyway. You could say Texas is right up there too, but mostly Baylor, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma are 3 of the best teams in the conference. That's what's on deck for Oklahoma State. So it is a tough schedule coming up for them here in this game. You know, Iowa State sometimes goes into shooting woes. That was their issue against Kansas. But I do think they're healthier now. Jalen Coleman-Lands has been solid for them. Rasir Bolton as well. Solomon Young and Javon Johnson are averaging double digits. Defensively is where it's really gone problematic for Iowa State. But I think they can hang in this number, and I also am going to keep riding Iowa State games over. It has been working. This total has been bet up already, 143.5 to 146.5, and I agree with that move. I think we'll see some points scored. What do you think, Conor, in this Big 12 matchup?
Yeah, I think some points will be scored as well. Let's start 147.5 is really getting up there. I lean Iowa State. I get into the spot you talked about, you know, with we'll see with Baylor, you know, with the COVID, with them coming up, but I think it's a flat spot. They only beat Kansas State by 7 on Saturday. I got to lean taking the 11. It just wasn't my favorite look. They couldn't cover both versus Kansas, and you mentioned it, the cold shooting really was it in the second half. It just missed catching the number and losing by 14. So anything, I'm with you here. I take the points rather than lay it. And another thing, Oklahoma State's been a little slow, so maybe not first half. You know, Cunningham really seems to have good second halves in games. He really gets going. So maybe Iowa State first half, but just a lean.
All right, Providence and UConn in the Big East. We've got Connecticut 6.5 point home favorites, 134 the total. This has been bet up a bit, and it's all reaction to the big news that James Bouknight finally is coming back for the Huskies in this game. Leading scorer, best offensive player by a mile. He's been cleared to play. He'll be back for Danny Hurley's squad in this game. Give them credit, too, because they were without him, facing a pretty good Xavier team on Saturday. And UConn goes on the road, gets themselves a huge road win against the against the Musketeers. And when you play defense, and UConn has been one of the better defensive teams in the Big East this season, you're going to have a chance to win games and hang in there. And that's exactly what they did against Xavier. They also finally got some guys stepping up in the absence of Bouknight. Finally, RJ Cole had a good shooting game. He had been stapled to the bench because he'd been shooting so poorly. And he finally busted out in that win against Xavier. Tyrese Martin as well had a nice offensive game. So if those guys can maintain what they did against Xavier, plus you get Bouknight back, that's all of a sudden UConn maybe a better offensive team now, quite a bit going into this game. Providence, it's tricky because to me, Providence is always that team in that road underdog role. That's been a very good point spread role for them for years under Ed Cooley. So much of their success against the spread, for years under this coach has been them on the road catching points. And they already beat up UConn already this season by a 70-59. It's revenge for UConn. They've got some momentum. They're going to get Bouknight back. I can't say it's the best of spots to be going against UConn. So I was initially leaning Providence in this game, but I think I'm going to just maybe ease off or keep it to a very small bet. The total's been bumped up. It's tough sometimes to get Providence over the total. They've labored offensively at times, facing a really good UConn defense. But I think UConn's offense with Cole and Martin stepping up and now Bouknight back is going to be better. I think if I look at the total, I don't normally do this, but I think I'd feel more comfortable with the UConn team total over as opposed to just the full game over, because I just don't know what you're going to get offensively here from Providence against a really good defensive team like Connecticut. Conor, what do you think here? Providence, UConn.
Yeah, I just initially leaned UConn. I took them taking the 4, and they played great against Xavier on Saturday. I initially kind of liked it. Providence has played better because they just beat them last week. Providence did. I was just thinking the quick revenge. I like it even a bit more, even though Bouknight, that it adds another point to 6.5. I got a small look with UConn. I'm going to lay it here. I think they kind of get revenge. The only problem, this is when I say Providence gets it together, and they put 2 together. I've been waiting and waiting. They finally put 2 wins together, and Ed Cooley usually gets going here. So just not one I love on the card, but I'd lay the 6.5 with UConn here with Bouknight back. They got to get going. I think they're a sleepy team that could be like a 9 seed UConn that could upset a few teams in the tournament.
Yeah, because if you bring it defensively, that's going to keep you in a lot of games and give you a chance, especially when you're playing all neutral court games like you do in the NCAA tournament. Exactly. Shooting sometimes in these weird venues, the sight lines are a little bit different venue to venue. Sometimes you're just not going to shoot the ball well, but if you dig in, you guard your man, at the defensive end of the basketball court, you're going to give yourself a chance when you're not shooting it all that well. And UConn so many times this year, when they've had a putrid offensive showing, they've been able to hang in games because of that defensive mindset and that defensive ability. And it's been a boon to them. No question about that. SEC action now. We've got Georgia hosting Missouri. The Missouri Tigers, 3.5 point road favorites here, 152 the total in this game. Missouri trying to it's almost like a drunk man stumbling out of the bar. That's kind of what's happened to Missouri here the last couple of games here for the Tigers. They've all of a sudden had a couple of setbacks. They get blown out by Ole Miss last weekend. And then they come back home against Arkansas last week, and they end up losing 86-81 in overtime. So back-to-back losses now for this Tigers team. They've now fallen to the 20 spot in the AP top 25 poll. So you definitely get concerned about that. And now you've got injury concerns starting to mount too, especially Jeremiah Tillman, who's been injured, who averages 12.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game. He's now away from this team, may not play here tonight against Arkansas, against Georgia. That is a concern for sure. Tillman's absence leaves a Missouri team without a lot of quality bigs in terms of depth behind him. And you saw the effects of that, becoming a lot more perimeter scoring team. You don't get that same production inside. So that's a big absence for Missouri here in this game. They are better than Georgia. I had Missouri circled. I still lean to the Tigers here at 3.5, but I don't like the absence of Tillman in this game. And Georgia's best basketball, has often been at home. We've seen them actually rise up, give some teams some games on their home floor. So I definitely would take Missouri minus the points before Georgia plus the points here, but I'm just going to pump the brakes just a little bit. What I do think is Georgia's going to be able to score in the open court. We know Georgia pushes pace. That's always Tom Crean teams have been that way. Missouri's biggest flaw defensively is their transition defense. And that's obviously an area that Georgia is going to attack relentlessly because that's where they get most of their points. Scoring in trans. They're not a good half-court offensive team. They're not a good shooting team when teams can guard them 5-on-5. But they get out in that open court, Georgia. That's when they do damage. I think they'll get their preferred style of play. So while I lean Missouri, I'm not touching that. I am touching the over in this game, 152. Missouri, Conor, what do you think here with Missouri and Georgia?
Yeah, I think they get there. 115 they gave up to Alabama. I don't think they're going to give that much, but Missouri's got more lax. I think as SEC play has, they play Alabama, Georgia, these teams, Kentucky, LSU, they're starting to play that pace because they were an under team early on in the season. Missouri was. So I'd lean towards the over as well. The spot's tricky. Tillman's out, like you said. Short favorite on the road. Seems like that little, like people say, trap. But Missouri's got to win. So I'd lay it here with them. I don't love it either, but I think they need to take care of Georgia. A third loss would not look good on the resume, even though I think that loss to Arkansas is a good loss for Missouri. It would be Missouri or pass. I just don't love it. These short road favorites have been tricky. And you said Georgia's played their best basketball at home. That's really where they've got their wins over Kentucky. They lost to Auburn, was their only home loss. I see January 13th, at least in SEC play. So, they beat Ole Miss, Vandy. I'd lean Mizzou here, -3.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at it without Tillman against Arkansas, small ball lineup for Quanzo Martin, pace went up, possessions went up in that game as well. Now Arkansas plays fast, so that's something to that as well, contributing to that. But Missouri definitely played quicker with the smaller lineup, minus Tillman. They're going to play that way again. And Georgia just couldn't hit anything from three-point range. And the coach is basically hounding them to attack the paint, get in the paint, get in the low post, score that way. And without Tillman there in that low post area, you think that's going to – and they struggled in that interior defensively against Arkansas. That's an area Georgia might be able to do significant damage, kind of why I think both teams can score both ways. Both teams can have success. You get points both ways here, why I'm liking the over here at 152. And again, Missouri, a little bit of an uptick in pace and possessions now with the smaller lineup as well, minus Jeremiah Tillman. Jansen in the chat, you've just missed the first couple of games. Again, if you miss anything and you join us late, show is always there on the YouTube page, Pub Sports Radio, for archive viewing. So you can always go back and check out anything we missed. I want to mention what Jacksonville Zoe is saying in the chat, that there is live St. John's Xavier live betting show tonight on Pub Sports Radio. I got the pleasure of listening to Jacksonville Zoe one night doing the play-by-play. This guy's a pro. I mean, he's coming prepared. He sounded like he was ready for an ESPN or CBS or Fox job, with what he was doing. Great work by Zoe doing the play-by-play for some of these live betting basketball games. So check that out with Zoe, Nick, and the crew there. They'll be doing live betting during the St. John's Xavier Big East matchup. We'll be breaking that game down in just a little bit. Next up, Dayton and Rhode Island. We've got the Rhode Island Rams 3-point home favorites in this game, 134 and a half the total in this one. I probably have a small lean here to Rhode Island just a little bit, but I just wasn't comfortable laying 3 with them. Dayton has certainly not been quite as consistent or as strong as they were last season. That's for sure. They really miss Chapman. He's been out obviously for well over a month, but it looks like they've sort of had a downtick the last couple of games, losing to VCU at home 76-67. And they lost at Duquesne 69-64. Rhode Island, though, the one problem is they've lost 4 straight coming into this game, back-to-back home losses to VCU and UMass. You just worry that the Rhode Island Rams may be going in the wrong direction at the wrong time here. So I think it's probably a good bounce-back spot. I don't know if I've got the utmost faith in Dayton here necessarily to go on the road. They've had some good road performances, but can they do it again here? It's just a lot of volatility performance-wise with these two teams lately. It's a clear pass for me. Conor, did you find anything here? Dayton, Rhode Island?
No, can't see Zoe on here. I think I'm missing some of my people in the chat. Anyways, this one, when I looked at it earlier, I want nothing to do with the Rams. Just seem to be sliding. Lost 4 in a row. They're not at home. I mean, when they're at home, laying 3, I don't want it. Both these teams have been not good to me this year. Dayton's been hit and miss. So is Rhode Island for me. I mean, I guess I'd take the 3 with Dayton, but I have no liking that at all. So this was a quick pass for me. I want nothing to do with this. Since Fast Russell has kind of been hindered by the Achilles, they've just been in a free fall kind of. So I've just been passing on Rhode Island games.
Yeah, you can tell he's playing through something. Like he's not got that burst in the step anymore. That attack the rim mentality. I don't know what it is, but he's like trepidatious. He's playing with some, caution that he might aggravate something, and he's just so much a key part of what makes Rhode Island go. That without him playing 100%, carefree and health wise being at 100%, it's really hindered them, no question. Bowling Green, Ball State. Bowling Green 2-point road favorites, 148 the total. I don't know if I'm ready to trust Bowling Green laying points on the road. They've kind of been a little bit of a frustrating bunch to figure out the last few games. Bowling Green. It's not like Ball State, though, is any great shakes, but you look at Bowling Green. They had lost a bunch of games in a row, 6 in a row, before notching a shocking, to be honest with you, road win against a pretty good Toledo team, 88-81. Can they withstand prosperity? Now going on the road again to face Ball State. Ball State, just beat Toledo themselves at home, 81-67. Kind of funny that both of these teams are off surprising wins against one of the better teams in the MAC, Toledo. Prior to that, they got blown out by Buffalo. But they also, beat Northern Illinois. They lost to Ohio. So they've had, a good home win, a bad home game. It's been a little bit of everything here for Ball State, but as a home dog here, I would side with Ball State +2 here before looking at Bowling Green laying points on the road. So my lean here is Ball State. Haven't bet it yet. Probably won't, but I lean to Ball State. Conor, what do you think here?
Me too. I haven't bet it. And I'm just looking on here. They got beat by Buffalo bad, and they beat Toledo at home. They played a ton of road games, Ball State, in a row. Man, they played a lot this year. They haven't been home much at all. Yeah, my lean's here with Ball State. Right now, Bowling Green was supposed to be one of the top teams here in the MAC. They haven't really played up to their ability this year. So I don't want to lay 2 points on the road with them. So my lean would be Ball State as well. I'd take the 2 with them at home.
Yeah, I got to start opening up and figuring out how to get these horse betting accounts reloaded, because you're right. Razor Sharp hit some pick 4 earlier today on Parks, and I saw that 1,500. I mean, I'm going to have to start getting in on some of these horse things he's posting, pick 4s and pick 6s and trifectas and all this stuff. It's doing really good. I got these HPI bet accounts, and I haven't used them in forever. I got to start putting some funds back in there and getting
to get in there and get with us,
getting it fired up again. That's the one I use, HPI bet. It's just all
in Canada, HPI. That's what Jimmy uses,
Yeah, that's the one that's in Canada. I know it's a TVG, I believe, in the States. There's a bunch of them, though, I know, in the U.S. that they use. But, I got to fire that up again. Get in on this this horse racing action here. Kudos to Razor, though. Way to go. 1,500.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Nicely done.
Work, brother.
Absolutely. Kent State, Western Michigan. Kent State, 9.5-point road favorites, 140 the total in this one. Should be interesting to see how this one goes. Kent State, Western Michigan, again, I don't want to back this team. I haven't backed this team at all this year. They've been just terrible, Western Michigan. The question is, can you take that leap with Kent, laying 9.5 on the road here? And it's which is the lesser of the two evils pretty much at this point in time. You got to think, though, Kent would probably be the side I would prefer. A lot of their games, though, they were winning by 5, by 7, by 9, by 4 against Bowling Green on the road. Specifically on the road, it's a lot of their wins are in that 9-10 point range, and that's exactly where this number is. So credit to the odds makers. They pretty much put this number probably right where it should be. Yeah, I'm not backing Western Michigan right now. Not interested. They got absolutely wiped out by Buffalo, 86-54 in their last game. So for me, I would look a little bit here. I would lean only to Kent State. Maybe I get there with the over, though, because you're talking about 140. And you're talking about a Western Michigan team that's gotten to 140s in 2 of their last 3, a Kent State team that's, gotten to a pretty much 140s in a couple of their recent games as well, 138. So maybe this game can slip over the total. It's going to be close to the number, but I would lean to the favorite and lean to the over. But probably games I'll just keep in the lean category. What do you think, Conor, with Kent and Western Michigan?
Yeah, I haven't bet on Western Michigan, only against them, fade them. If I had to bet this one, I'd actually maybe take Western Michigan. I don't know if I could lay 9.5 with Kent State. They played a bit better lately. They beat Bowling Green in Central, and then they just got blown out by Buffalo. I had Buffalo the other day. But I lean with the points with them, and it's ugly. I haven't bet it. It'd just be a lean. But as you said, Kent State hasn't been able to put people away, 9 or more. So 9 to 10 range. When I go to bet, I don't want to be laying. I got Kent State tonight minus 9.5. I'd rather go to a different game.
And we're going to do that right now. Go to a different game. We've got Michigan State, Purdue. We've got Purdue 5.5-point home favorites, 136.5 the total. The money that's coming in on Michigan State must be this insane belief that suddenly a magic elixir is going to suddenly cure what ails the Spartans team. I don't know what it is, but I don't know how. I'm baffled that there's that much interest in Michigan State here that has pushed this line. That was 6.5 one time on Purdue, and it's down all the way to 5.5 now. When you look at it from a Purdue standpoint, they don't have significant injuries. In fact, the questionables are on the Michigan State side, particularly Watts, the guard. But to me, it's kind of silly, or it's kind of strange that there's some betting market support for this Michigan State. Now, I know they won 2 in a row at home against Nebraska, against Penn State, but the Nebraska win against a terrible Huskers team wasn't that impressive. They didn't cover in the victory. Penn State slipped out of there with a win by the skin of their teeth. I was on Penn State in that game, and they got the money as 3.5-point dogs. And then the last game against Iowa, here was their chance. Put yourself back on the map at least a little bit, trying to get yourself back toward the bubble, and you couldn't have played any worse. If you're Tom Izzo's team, 88-58, the game was over at halftime. It was over. Iowa was already up comfortably. Even Iowa's defense, they weren't going to blow that lead. I worry if that takes whatever air was left in that Michigan State balloon, if that takes it out of them here in this game. Now, you got Purdue at home. They haven't necessarily won by convincing margins here on their home floor. We're talking about an 8-point win against Penn State. They had the one big blowout win against Minnesota. They barely beat Northwestern 75-70 at home. So there is some risk with laying the points with Purdue, but I'm going to lay the points with Purdue. To me, Michigan State is almost a stick of fork in them. They're done type of team right now. I don't know if they get themselves up off the mat following that just debacle on their home floor at the Breslin Center against Iowa. That's their chance to make a statement, show some fight for crying out loud. And you get a win of that magnitude, it could have at least inched you back towards the bubble. And now you're just way out of it again. And unless you go on a miracle run and win the Big Ten tournament, you're not going to the NCAA tournament if you're Michigan State. I like Purdue here, minus 5.5. Conor, what do you think here with the Spartans and Boilermakers?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. These teams like Minnesota and Purdue, especially now that, it's under 6, like you said, 5.5. I don't see it in Michigan State. Purdue's healthier, as you said. They've been playing better. And Purdue is a team I want to back at home. So I'm with you. I'm going to lay the 5.5 with Purdue. Nothing real on the total at 136. I think it could get over, but you never know with Purdue and Michigan State. They've been up and down. Michigan State's had trouble scoring of late, and they've had some games where they got into the 70s. So Nothing on the total, but I'd lay with Purdue the 5.5 tonight.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that you get held to what the amount of points they got held to against Iowa there, 50s, against Iowa's defense at home, and now you're going to go on the road against a Purdue team that guards their man at least a little bit better than Iowa does, and you're going to score. Yeah, to me that's what would have me thinking that if you're going to bet the over, you're taking a leap of faith with Michigan State offensively here in this game tonight. And it's not like Purdue's an offensive juggernaut. They win games, pretty much methodically, slower pace, do enough on defense, get the job done. The total for me actually would be underlooked for me, if anything, when it comes to the total in that game. Next up, we've got, as we continue on down the card, Temple and Tulsa, two struggling AAC teams going at it here. Tulsa 4-point home favorites, 129 the total. Temple beat Tulsa earlier this season in the previous meeting between these two teams. Both of them are struggling right now. You look at Temple, they won the first game 76-67 a couple of weeks ago, but you know what? They haven't won a game since then. the Temple Owls. So not very good for them. Tulsa's struggled. They've lost 3 in a row. They're 1-5 straight up in their last 6 games. The only win for them against East Carolina, who are a very weak team. They're struggling to put the ball in the basket. Absolutely brutal offense right now from Tulsa. So it's really, where do you go here? Do you take Temple, who have been struggling a lot themselves, or do you lay the points with Tulsa here? And it is the one thing that Tulsa is better at home. Tulsa is in revenge for losing to Temple. So for me, it would be a small look to Tulsa, if anything, here, -4. I don't trust Temple here on the road, but it's not anything I'm overly strong about, just a lean to the Golden Hurricane. What do you think, Conor? Temple, Tulsa?
Yeah, this one's a tough one. Both teams struggling a lot. Early on, I'd look to lay the 4 with Tulsa, but they played so bad lately. You said lost 5 of 6, lost the last 3. In this spot, I'd only look maybe to take Temple +4. I didn't, but I took the under 130. I don't know if these teams can get to 60 the way Tulsa's been scoring, and Temple's no offensive juggernaut either. They're slow, usually play in the mid-60s, so I'm on the under 130 here.
Yeah, I would not argue with that. These teams, Tulsa, Central Florida, South Florida, Tulane in this conference, they've been a lot of under teams. They're not gifted offensive teams. They don't play fast. They play pretty good defense. There's a bunch of teams in that category in this conference, and yeah, definitely Tulsa would be one of them right now as well. Temple, not quite as much, but they've slowed it down offensively as well lately. Florida and Arkansas, good one in the SEC here. Arkansas, 4.5-point home favorites, 151.5 the total. This has that feel, that smell, that whatever you want to call it, of maybe a little bit of a tricky spot for Arkansas for as well as they're playing. I mean, they've had a couple of barn burners in a row, Conor. You think about it. The win against Kentucky, where they led pretty much wire to wire, but they had to hang on late to win at Kentucky at Rupp Arena last week. And then they're in that absolute barn burner that goes to overtime against Missouri on Saturday. What a road win for the Razorbacks and Eric Musselman's team. This guy can coach. This guy can flat out coach. What a college basketball head coach this guy has been. Going back to Nevada, what he did there, Wolfpack, the Martin twins, and in the tournament, and just really took Nevada from a middling program. And look what he did with them in the tournament and making noise in the tournament. And when Arkansas hired him, I'm like, Arkansas has been mired in mediocrity and, inconsistency for years. I still think of Arkansas. They haven't been truly great as a program since Nolan Richardson, the 40 minutes of havoc from way back in the 90s. Awesome Arkansas
great teams back to back.
Yeah, they were
almost
fun.
Back, but in the final back to back,
Yeah, they were fun to watch, those teams. They flew up and down the court, that full court pressure, that havoc defense, forcing turnovers and just running the other direction, get quick, easy baskets. That's the last time Arkansas was truly a great program. And I'm telling you what, they got a chance to get back to, if not great, close to great again with Eric Musselman at the helm. He's done an outstanding job. This team is playing their best basketball this season. However, like I said, I'm a little bit worried about this spot for them. They're off 2 barn burner, thrilling, gutted out, intense wins in a row against Kentucky and Missouri. And I've seen teams kind of like that fall flat. I remember Florida did that when they played South Carolina, recently. They were off a couple of big games. They played West Virginia, remember. They came back home against South Carolina. They were short home favorites and they lost outright. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Arkansas here, but as much as I like this team and the way they're playing, I'm worried enough about this situation here for Arkansas where I would only look to Florida plus the points. And Florida's been a decent road dog. Remember in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, they went on the road as underdogs and beat West Virginia in that game in Morgantown. A really impressive win. I'm impressed this team has been able to play as well as they have without Keontae Johnson, of course. It's been out for a very long time for the Gators, but their offense has picked it up. Mike White finally has figured it out in terms of I've got athletes, I've got shooters. Why am I slowing it down? Why am I not letting the horses out of the stable as we get back to horse talk here? Why am I not letting them run and gun up and down the court? They've gone up and down. They're playing a faster pace, game in and game out now. You're going to get that from Arkansas. I lean to Florida. I think the over's a really good look, though, in this game. 151, reasonable number. Florida's picked up the pace. You're going to get Arkansas playing that way. But I also think Florida's got some offensive advantages here against Arkansas a little bit, particularly inside, that they can exploit here. I think we'll see points here with the Gators and the Razorbacks. Connor, what do you think here? Florida, Arkansas.
Yeah, this is a good one. I'm with you. I think points will be scored. I think it can get over. Florida's been an over team, especially on the road, and Arkansas has been in the 80s here, their last few. I'm with you with Florida. I think it's just a bit too many points. I called it 5. I think 4.5 is still good. When I saw 5, I thought it, but I don't blame people for wanting to be on Arkansas. They've played well. As of lately, ever since Smith's been back, they've done well. I just think Florida, everyone talks, yes, they could be rusty. Maybe look at Arkansas first half. Florida's been on that long layoff. Maybe they don't have their shooting legs. But when it comes down to it, I wanted to take the 5 points. They played pretty well on the road, beat Georgia, West Virginia. They lost by 3 to Mississippi State. I just think they can keep this game close. And like you said, just a flat spot, kind of a weird, after that big win, Arkansas, just a tricky one here. That's going to be a good game, and I think could go either way. But I got to take the points in a matchup like this.
Yeah, Florida, they've been off for 13 days. They had 3 games postponed. They haven't played since that loss I talked about to South Carolina at home after they beat West Virginia. But they beat for Georgia. You're right. West Virginia, they played really, really well. They're 8-1, by the way, with Mike White as the coach against Arkansas. They played really well against Arkansas. So you got to think that maybe it's a matchup thing. So that's another reason why I would only look to Florida here, plus the points. 13 days off. I get that. It could be some rust, could be for Florida. But it's not the 1 month layoff, which would concern me a lot more. It's those teams I've really been worried about when you have a full month off. 2 weeks, I think you can handle it a bit better.
Practicing.
Exactly. You got a little bit more opportunity to maybe not have quite as much problems in your first game back when you get a couple weeks compared to a month off. But there is some concern that way, but not enough that I would still lean to Florida in this game. But I like the over even more than that. In this one, Miami, Ohio, Toledo, 11-point home favorites, 150 the total in this game. All of a sudden, Toledo's human again. They're kind of like Drake of the MAC, Connor, here when it comes to Toledo. They couldn't not cover a point spread for the longest time. This Toledo Rockets team, much like Drake, and now all of a sudden we're seeing Toledo not only failing to cover the number in recent games, but losing outright as big favorites. 8.5-point favorites at Ball State, they lose outright. 7.5-point home favorites to Bowling Green. In their last game, they lose outright. So all of a sudden, you're worried a little bit about this team. Question is, can Miami of O take advantage of suddenly a couple of stumbles in a row for the Toledo Rockets here? I'm not so sure. You look at Miami of O at Buffalo, they lose by 24. At Kent State on the road, they lose by 9. They beat Eastern Michigan, who aren't very good. They get blown out by Ohio by 17, but anybody decent to good at the MAC on the road, Miami of O hasn't been competitive with them. So, usually when a team starts to sputter against the number like Toledo, I don't want to step in front of the streak, whether it's a winning streak ATS or a losing streak ATS. So can't say I'm in love with laying the points with Toledo, but I'd probably prefer Toledo if I had to bet this game. Miami O hasn't shown me any step up in class ability against good, above average to good teams on the MAC on the road, and obviously Toledo fits that category even after their last 2 losses. What do you think, Connor? Miami O, Toledo?
Yeah, that's why I lean with Miami, Ohio, but I couldn't take it either because every time they played anybody decent, they just gotten whipped. Buffalo, Ohio, Wright State, they've just got their ass kicked on the road. So I had to stay off it. I wanted to lean and take the points with Miami, Ohio, but I'm off it. Toledo's, been not so great lately. After that great run, that's what happens. A little comes back to normal here, and the book's laying big numbers like this. So just be cautious laying with Toledo. We could see a big bounce back win, or maybe just could sneak by in the W. So I'm gonna pass.
All right, Austin Peay, Southeast Missouri State, a rare Ohio Valley game on a Tuesday night. Austin Peay, 6.5-point road favorites, 137.5 the total in this one. Austin Peay, a team that kind of was scratching our heads early in the season, saying, what's wrong with this team? They're supposed to be one of the top teams in the Ohio Valley. They didn't play like it early on. They're supposed to be every bit as good as Belmont, and Murray State's actually had some issues, although they played better lately. But all of these teams that we're expected to be the cream of the crop, but especially Austin Peay, didn't really get things going early in the season, but they've got it going now. They've won 5 of their last 7. They've been on a point spread run of 6-1 ATS, or 7-1, sorry, against the spread their last 8 games. They blew out SEMO 78-63 in the first meeting between these two teams just a few days ago, and then 71-50 against Tennessee Martin before that. I don't see what changes here. I mean, you look at SEMO here, when they've been asked to step up in class here, it's not been pretty. Murray State lost by 17. Jacksonville State lost by 12. Murray State again, this time on the road, they lose by 20, and then they get whipped by Austin P by 15 in the llast game. Look, I know it's revenge for SEMO because they lost the other day to this team, but they're not the better team compared to the Governors. Austin P, 5-1 ATS, their last 6 road games as well, which is a good point. They've been a good point spread covering machine on the highway lately. I think they get the job done again, Austin P, and I think they probably get it done by enough of a margin to cover this number. So I like Austin P here, laying the 6.5. If you don't watch Austin P at all, and I try to watch some of these smaller conferences each night, Terry Taylor is fun to watch for Austin P.
Yeah,
he is straight up. He will take any shot that he thinks is going to go in. Doesn't matter if it's almost out by half court. He is just a willing and able shooter. And when he gets hot from the field for Austin P, this team becomes very dangerous. Kind of one of those situations where if Austin P can somehow win the Ohio Valley, you have a guy like that can just shoot it from anywhere. You're dangerous at tournament time. But first, they got to win the conference tournament. This is a one-bid league. It's only going to be the Ohio Valley tournament champion in the tournament. They got to get that job done first. But if they are somehow in the NCAA tournament and they get the automatic bid from the OVC, they've got that prototype of a team that could give a team a high seed in the tournament some difficulty in a first-round game. Connor, what do you think, Austin P, SEMO?
I had Austin P the other day. I'm not going to go again. I've gotten burned too much this year. I think, like you just nailed, they should cover this one, but too many of these back-to-backs, even the lesser team, not as good, can cover in these games. I mean, look at Drake. I bet you a lot of people were on Loyal the next day, just how great the second half was. And Drake held in there, beat him in OT, 51-50. Not that this happens here. I'm just going to stay off a game like this. Austin P, like you said, SEMO, and every step-up spot, they haven't been able to get it done. They're on a point spread losing streak here, 4 or 5 in a row. Just a game I had to pass.
All right, nothing wrong with that. Next up, we've got, as we go on down the card, Nebraska, Maryland. Maryland, 10-point home favorites, 136.5 the total. You know what? Nebraska's playing gritty, and they're playing tough. The effort's been there for Freddie Hoiberg's team the last few games. Honestly, I've been impressed. I mean, they've given some teams some tough games of late. What they did against Illinois, just a couple of games ago was downright shocking that they took the Illini to overtime in that game and fell short 77-72. They beat Penn State on the road 62-61 in their last game. This team is not waving the white flag for as rough a season as it's been, but you finally get your first Big Ten conference win. Now you're going on the road. It smells potential for just lay an egg and flat spot beyond belief, but I'm not ready to lay 10 with Maryland. That's the way I'm looking at it here. I know they beat up Minnesota last game at home 72-59, but before that, they win by a single point against Purdue, and they had to come back to win, lose at home to Wisconsin, lose at home to Ohio State, they get blown out by Iowa. I'm just not ready to lay this much with Maryland. I like Morcell. I like Aaron Wiggins, Ayala. It's a solid team, but just because they're a solid team doesn't always equate with laying 10 with a team like that. But I get it. It's a dubious spot for Nebraska. I have no clue. If they play like they did the last 2 games, against Illinois and Penn State, they might get inside this number, Nebraska. But when you finally win that game, you almost treat it like a Super Bowl. And they did. They got celebrated in the locker room after beating Penn State. They just worry that they don't replicate that here tonight. But I'm not laying 10 with Maryland. It's a pass for me. Connor, what's your take? Nebraska, Maryland.
Yeah, I'm worried about Nebraska. I had them with the points. They won outright at Penn State. I'm with you. I just laying 10 with Maryland. They're not a prolific offensive team. They're gritty defense, solid team. They're not a team I want to lay 10 points with. It's kind of like the reason the other day I didn't think Penn State should be laying 11, 11 and a half. And I think Maryland's a little better. The spot's weird. They play tomorrow, I believe, or the next day. This is a back-to-back. So I was going to watch tonight. Let's see. Maryland wins, I think, and then maybe a Nebraska cover. I'm going to watch tonight's and maybe get on tomorrow's. So just a watch for me here tonight. It's a big spread.
All right, next game on the slate, Xavier St. John's. This is our featured matchup on Pub Sports Radio tonight. Live betting with Zoe, Nick, and the crew. They'll take you through this Big East matchup. We've got St. John's 1.5-point home favorites, 153 to 154, even 155 showing in some spots the total. So a lot of variance book to book with the total. So make sure you shop around for the best number possible, regardless of whether you like the over or under. I'm on St. John's and I'm on the over in this game, side and total. I like St. John's here. I know they lost to Butler last game. Finally, they had that game where, you know what, they had played so well for so long, and they actually raced out to a big lead against Butler. And I don't know if they got cocky or they got a little bit too arrogant, St. John's, but they were just all of a sudden turning the ball over, not getting back on defense, all of this stuff that they weren't doing during this incredible win streak that the Red Storm were on, which includes a win against Villanova, by the way. I mean, it's been a great run for St. John's here in the Big East lately, to the point where now they're legitimately potentially in the tournament. They could be. You know, I think they've still got some sweating it out to do, but they're definitely have potential with this run to be in the tournament. Champagny, of course, has been awesome, leading the charge for this St. John's team. I think it's a good bounce back spot. They lost at Cintas Center earlier this season against Xavier on the road. I think they get him back here, and Xavier on the road's been a little bit more infallible than they have at home. And Xavier's coming off a loss to UConn, who was shorthanded as well. I know they're coming off a loss to UConn, but I think St. John's gets them here at home. They already beat Villanova on this floor. I think they beat Xavier on this floor as well. I'll just take the money line minus 120 rather than lay the minus 1.5 points, and I'll go over this total. I think we'll see a lot of scoring. Fremantle's a matchup problem, I think, for St. John's down low, but St. John's can shoot it. Their offense is in good form. You're going to get brisk pace. Xavier's really played much faster. Of course, St. John's does. So I think we get points, and I like St. John's to win this one. Connor, what's your take here? Xavier, St. John's, the featured matchup for Pub Sports Radio.
Yeah, I think this will be a good one. I'm with you here with St. John's. Xavier off the layoff didn't look good against UConn, and they were playing pretty good ball before that, but I didn't think it was that great. They beat St. John's by 8, Providence by 1, and Butler by 3. Pretty good, but I don't think it was too good. I think they're more middle of the road team here in Xavier. The St. John's second half was not good against Butler, but Aaron Thompson kind of just went off in that second half for Butler. So I'm with you. I'm with St. John's here, but I'm on the under here. I think we're a little too high at 155. I think that's just a bit too much. If this game was maybe 5 points lower, I think it's just too high at 155. I think maybe you might be right. It might get over, but I think they're kind of going off Xavier from earlier on in the year. They're playing tons of overs, but we'll see tonight. It should be a good one. I can't wait.
Yeah, definitely. Should be a good one. And if you're interested in joining the crew for some live betting during the game, tune in to Pub Sports Radio tonight during that Xavier St. John's game. Loyola Marymount, Santa Clara. Loyola Marymount, 2-point road favorites, 133 the total in this game. Santa Clara is another one of those teams that's been off for a while because of a COVID shutdown. You worry about just how sharp they're going to be. Loyola Marymount has struggled on the road, 1-4 straight up. But I think it's canceled out by the fact that, you know, Santa Clara is coming in here when you're really not exactly sure how this Broncos team is going to play here tonight for their first game in almost a month. January 23rd is the last time they played, and they beat Loyola on the road. This Loyola Marymount team's the last team they played, and they won 72-69. Money's come in on Marymount. I wouldn't argue with that. I think they probably get the road win. It's gone up to 3. Didn't lay the 3, or actually it's gone up just to 2 rather, -2 on the Marymount. But yeah, I'd lean to them. Didn't bet the game, but I would lean to Marymount a little bit. C-Mac, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I think they get revenge here. I'm on Loyola, especially that it's dropped a little bit. I think they get revenge. I think they're a little bit better than Santa Clara. So I'm going to take a -2.
All right, next up, Big Ten action, Northwestern Illinois. We've got the Illini, 13-point home favorites, 143.5 the total in this one. Northwestern, this total might get under, to be honest with you, 144. I mean, Illinois can defend. Illinois' offense has been a little bit streaky. I mean, to be honest with you, their offense was sputtering against Nebraska for well over a half. And that doesn't give me confidence we can get a game over the total here in the mid 40s, 140s with these two teams. And Northwestern's not exactly lit the basket on fire in recent games with their shooting numbers. And Illinois has been one of those teams. They're starting to turn off their focus, their intensity,
A little bit.
locked in. It's all of those things. Like they were just asleep for pretty much the first half against Nebraska, and they're lucky that Nebraska is just really, really struggling and rebuilding. Because if they do that against other teams, maybe they don't come back and win that game in overtime. So you worry. This is the dog days of the regular season for all these teams. Illinois has bigger fish to fry. They're just looking to cruise to the Big Ten tournament and then the NCAA tournament, and then they'll maybe flip the switch and turn it on again. But, at this stage of the season, everybody knows Illinois is a damn good team. Everybody knows Illinois has got a chance to win it all and go deep in the NCAA tournament. First of all, you just don't get point spread bargains with those kind of teams at this time of year. And second of all, like I said, you don't always get 40 minutes of focus from these teams at this time of year. So, yeah, they're better than Northwestern. Yeah, if we see Illinois' A game, they can win this game and cover this number. But I don't know if we see it. Pass. Conor, what do you think? Northwestern, Illinois.
Yeah, I got to pass too. Just too big of a number. And what Illinois team are you going to get, especially lately? They blew out Wisconsin pretty good by 15. Then the Nebraska game. It's just not one maybe you could see in them not being focused. Northwestern was playing a little bit better. They just haven't been any kind of consistent on the road. I lean with them a little bit. If I had a free bet here, I'd take the points with Northwestern and just close my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a brutal run. I feel bad for Collins. I do. Here at Northwestern. 11 straight losses for this team. They won, believe it or not. Remember, they won their first 3 conference games?
Yeah.
Upsets too in the mix, and we're like, whoa, Northwestern, maybe keep an eye on this team. Oh, yeah, we'll keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on them to see them just go down the plank here the last 11 games. 3-11 now in Big Ten play. 11 straight losses for Northwestern. Now, obviously, it's accounted for in the point spread here, but yeah, it has been a tough stretch for Northwestern. And again, when it comes to Illinois, you just focus. That's what it comes down to. Can Ayo Dosunmu play well and stay out of foul trouble, which has all of a sudden been an issue for him in some games recently? That remains to be seen. Next up, we've got LaSalle and St. Louis. This is the final game on the main card here. The main board. St. Louis 16-point home favorites, 141.5 the total. Looks like the Billikens are starting to shake off those cobwebs or rust or whatever you want to call it from their shutdown.
Yeah.
They played a lot better, and they're starting to look like that Billikens team that I thought could be a player in the A10, be an NCAA tournament team. I'm hoping they get in. This team deserves to be in. I like this roster. They're a veteran group with, and they've been around the block. Travis Ford's done a really nice job with the Billikens as a program here. I hope that the committee somehow, if they don't win the A10, Conor, give them an at-large, will you please? I mean, don't give it to these teams that are these blue bloods and these big power conference teams that don't deserve that. Don't punish them for losing at LaSalle earlier this season and then losing to Dayton those 2 games in a row. Factor in the situation. They were coming off that long layoff. You can't tell me when you watch the Billikens play, you cannot tell me that they don't deserve to be a tournament team, that the eye test doesn't say that's a tournament caliber team. They are. And I hope the committee sees it that way and doesn't punish them for those couple of losses in a row that they had coming off the shutdown. But I know these guys work. I really do. And you can never fully trust them because there'll be a lot of years where they're going to say, you know what? Oh, look at those 2 losses for St. Louis. Get them out of there. Oh, but look at those 2 losses for North Carolina or Duke or Kentucky. Oh, we'll look past that. We'll give them that little push toward getting in the tournament. That's the stuff that ticks me off when it comes to the tournament and the committee sometimes. The favoritism to the bigger programs, the bigger schools over a team like St. Louis bothers me. I hope we don't see that here this year, though, with the committee and what they do with St. Louis. I am not interested in going against St. Louis here because they lost to this LaSalle team, their second game back from their shutdown, and now they host them. And if they have the opportunity to maybe, run this score up, this might be one opponent they look to do it against because of losing to them earlier this season, wiping the taste out of their mouth from that loss that they suffered earlier in the season against LaSalle. They've certainly got the motivation to do so. And if they're focused, they're ready to go, this could be a very, very long night here for this LaSalle team. But yeah, I love this team. Javante Perkins, Jordan Goodwin, Hassan French, Yuri Call. It feels like these guys have been together for 4 years. They have. They've been on this team multiple years. I think LaSalle might be walking into the wrong place at the wrong time against the wrong team. For me, it would be Billikens or pass. What do you think, Conor? LaSalle, St. Louis.
Yeah, St. Louis wants revenge here after losing at LaSalle, but they were coming right out of the COVID break. One thing is I'd be cautious. I think St. Louis can get there and cover 16's a ton. LaSalle's played pretty well lately. They lost to St. Bonaventure by 13, Fordham beat St. Louis, lost by 11 to VCU. I look towards the over a little bit. They give up a ton. It's can they score enough? Maybe St. Louis locked them down. I think this can get over 141. It's all about can LaSalle score enough, I think. That's the big key here. But I'd lean towards the over 141 if I was going to bet anything in this game.
All right, lean to the over for Conor Mack and that one. We have 2 games on the added board, actually 3. Texas Southern, Jackson State. I do lean to the over there. It's gone up a bit. I agree with that. I'm on Wagner +3 against Mount St. Mary's. Look, Wagner just beat Fairleigh Dickinson, and I think the world of Fairleigh Dickinson. I think Wagner's playing some good basketball. I think they got a chance to win that game. I'll take 3 with Wagner against Mount St. Mary's. And I'm also on the over in the St. Francis, New York, Fairleigh Dickinson game. That's got shootout written all over it. Both of those teams, they just sprint up and down the floor. Fairleigh Dickinson does. St. Francis, New York does. There's a reason that total's in the 150s. I think it gets even into the 160s there. So those are my looks on the added board. Did you do anything, Conor, in terms of those 3 added board games?
The only one I liked was Wagner catching the 3. Mount St. Mary's is pretty good, but Wagner's been playing well lately, and I think this one's a close one. So I'd rather be taking 3 than laying it with St. Mary's in that spot. So Wagner +3.
All right, Wagner +3 as well for Conor Mack. And best bets coming up. We'll see if we can add to it. I mean, it's been for me, good run with best bets. Conor's starting to heat up too with them. I mean, we'll keep this train going here now when it comes to best bets. But before we get to them, though, Conor, what are our sponsors saying today?
Everyone needs another book. Go to mybookie.com. Promo code Pub Sports. The debit or credit is 50% off. You get 100% off Bitcoin. Do the Bitcoin. Put 1,000. You get 1,000, or at least minimum of 100. Put 100, and you get another 100. So go to mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports, and go to manscaped.com. Get 20% off your order. Get the trimmer, the deodorant, all the good stuff you get at Manscaped. Promo code PubSports, manscaped.com, 20% off your order. Get it.
All right, there we go. All right, best bets. Let's get it. In terms of hopefully a 2-0 sweep with best bets for the college basketball closing time show on this Tuesday. Conor, we'll go to you. What do you think for a best bet tonight?
Well, I like the game I'm covering, but I'll go to Florida, Arkansas. Not only I like Florida, I'm going to go with the over, though, 151. I think the pace both these teams, I just see over on both, going back in the research, overs. So, and Arkansas has been in the 80s. I think at 151, it's right there. It's doable to get. So I'm on the over, Florida, Arkansas, 151.
All right, there we go. Florida, Arkansas over 151. That's Conor's best bet for this Tuesday college basketball card. I'm going to go with Purdue -5.5 against Michigan State. Michigan State, world of hurt, an ungodly, awful effort the other night against Iowa in a game that, if they beat Iowa, who knows? Maybe they get some confidence from that. They go on a run. They get themselves back into the tournament picture, and all they did was play themselves out of the NCAA tournament picture even more than they already were. Now they got to go on the road, face a Purdue team. It's a reasonable number. You just got to ask Purdue to win this game by 6 or more. I think they can get the job done. So for me, Purdue -5.5 against Michigan State. That is my best bet for this Tuesday college basketball slate. See if we can add to the 8-1 run here that we got going with the best bets. They've been good, so hopefully another one tonight. That'll wrap up the show. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Over 100 live viewers. You have no idea how that makes us feel. Very appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys, for that, for tuning into us 3 days a week. We're on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific with the college basketball closing time show, as well as Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. So 4 days a week breaking down college basketball. Make sure you join us for that 4 days a week. Plus, of course, the NBA shows with Conor, Ski, and myself Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for always supporting this show and all the shows here on Pub Sports Radio. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Pub Sports Radio College Basketball Closing Time Show.